Okay, so this is the first linear equation lesson, the basics, okay, with a slight spelling mistake. And this is the things you need to know, okay, for linear demand, linear supply, so the basics, and the fact you need to calculate the equilibrium quantity and price. And over here are the potential questions that you could potentially get asked, so it's worthwhile making sure you know these. Okay, and during this tutorial I will attempt to go through all of these so you've got a point of reference. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so this is the first one, working out schedules. Very easy, we've done it before, so you just need to substitute the price into the equation. So 1 would go there, 3 would go there, 10 would go there, etc. Okay, so in terms of this, 320 minus 8 times 0, that's going to be 320. Over here, 320 minus 8 times 10 is going to be 320 minus 80, okay, which will be 240. Then over here, we do exactly the same thing, so we've got a minus figure here, so let's do this one, minus 20 plus 20 times 2, so that's minus 20 plus 40, so that's going to leave us 20. Okay, so pause the video now, just try it and do these, fairly straightforward and should be easy marks in your exam. Okay, the next thing you need to understand is the actual linear equations and what these variables represent. Okay, a minus b. So the a variable is essentially these here, and this represents what quantity is demanded when the price is 0. Okay, so it represents the q-intercept. So for D1 and D3 it's the same, it's 800. There we go, that's why it starts at the same point, so the q-intercept there. And for D2, so the quantity demanded 2, 600. Okay. So if demand changes at each and every price, so a non-price determinant of demand changes, that's going to change where the q-intercept is. Okay, so if B stays the same as it does here, okay, but the A variable reduces, so it goes to 600, demand is going to shift to the left. So something's happened, something's become unfashionable or untrendy, so demand has shifted at each and every price and just shifted across, which changes the A variable, okay, and the q-intercept. However, if that went up to say 1000, that's going to cause a rightward shift. So the demand line is going to go this way, but still parallel. Okay, so that's not a very straight line, but parallel to D1, and that would come down to here, which would be 1000. Okay, so that's the A variable. So let me get rid of some of this. Okay, so the B variable is the responsiveness. Okay, so this is the responsiveness to a change in price. So this is effectively talking about elasticity. So as you can see for this slope, D3, okay, the B variable has reduced. Okay, so that means it's become less responsive. So if it's less responsive, it becomes more inelastic. So this line becomes steeper. So you can see it's become steeper. Now, if that went from 60 to 90, D1 would have gone less steep. Okay, so more horizontal. It becomes more elastic. So going from 60 to 90 means that it becomes more responsive. Okay, so that's where that comes from. Okay, so we know q-intercept then, therefore, is going to be the A variable. So it's always going to be along here, so that's worked out. So the p-intercept though, so these, where these lines cross the price axes, we need to work out those next. So let's scrub those out. So basically we need to set quantity demanded to 0. So we can do that. Quantity demanded equals 0. So for this formula, that means we're going to add 60 to both sides. So 60p becomes equal to 800. So then we need to divide 60 by both sides to leave p, okay, and that will give us 13.3. Okay, so that gives us the p-intercept for D1, 13.3. Okay, so now we need to do the same for D2. So to find the p-intercept here, so we set 0 equals 600 minus 60p, add 60p to both sides, 600, then divide that by 60 to leave us with p, and that gives us 10. Okay, so that becomes 10. Then let's do the same for the last one, so let's swap that out and do the same for here. So 800 and 300, so set quantity demanded to 0, 800 minus 30p, so 30p, add to both sides, leaves us 800, divide by 30, so we leave p on there, and that will give us a grand total of 26.6, and that is the p-intercept there. Okay, so that allows us to plot the linear demand curves now accurately. Obviously we could plot any point along here. Okay, so we could plot the p when it's 7 and we get two points and then link those together, and it should go through the same place. But it's good practice to maybe work out the price intercept. Okay, right, moving on very quickly. Here's some practice questions. Pause now and do some practice. Okay, hopefully that practice was good for you. So moving on to the next one is the supply. Okay, and same again. Minus 200 represents the Q-intercept. Okay, minus 300 represents the Q-intercept. Minus 200, but because it's minus, these lines would be following on from each other, and that would be minus 200, and then this one, if we followed it on, would be minus 300, as we can see there. Okay, but that's no good to us because we don't need to do that. That's not going to happen because you can't produce minus of something. Okay, so if we get rid of those figures, so we need to work out the p-intercept. So how do we do that? Exactly the same as before. We set quantity supplied to 0. Okay, so for this one, it's going to be 0 equals minus 200 plus 140 p, and then we add 200 to this side. This leaves 140 p. Then divide by 140, and that will leave p equaling 1.43. 1.43. Okay, so for S1 that's going to be 1.43. Then S3 we'll do the same again here. So you do it for this one. Pause now and you give that a go. Okay, so you should have got for S2 2.14. Okay, and then finally if we do the S3 one together, so minus 200 plus 200p, set this to equal 0, add 200 to both sides, so 200 plus 200 equals 200p, and that gives us 200 divided by 200 equals 1, so this will be 1. Exactly the same again. The C plus dp. C is your Q-intercept, as we've just said, effectively. So this is what supply would be if the price was 0. Okay, and then the 140 here. This is how responsive supply is to a change in price. So here, as it's gone up to 200, we see that that's caused a change in the slope of the curve. So it's gone higher, so it's become more responsive, so it's become more elastic. Okay, so you need to know that. Now you've done that. Okay, you can work out another point along those lines and then link them up together. So work out what it would be for 5, for example. Okay, so that should help there. on this next slide is just information about the p-intercept and q-intercepts again, so you can read through that. Here's some practice, so stop and have a practice. Okay, so hopefully you had a good practice there. Any questions, you need to come and see me. And this is working out the equilibrium. So again, this is just solving for p. So we've added 10p to this side to get 60p, and we've added 100 to that side to get 600, and then divided both sides by 60 to get p, and that leaves us with $10. And to make sure we've got that working, we can work out the quantity demanded and quantity supplied by putting in 10 into this formula. So as you can see here, we've worked it out 10 times there, and we get 400 litres and 400 litres. Okay, so you can change this formula yourselves and work out the new quantity demand, the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantities. And if you've worked out the equilibrium price correctly, the equilibrium quantities should be the same. Okay, so that's a quick tip. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Here's some practice ones to have a go at. Just a clue here, this is 200, not minus 200, so the supply line is going to hit at a point before, so this is like positive 200, and demand's going to be over here. On this one, 2p, basically there's nothing demanded when price is 0, so it goes straight through, the supply line goes straight through the axes. Okay, for this one, it's quantity supply 400, so basically there's no change depending on price, so effectively it's going to be completely inelastic, perfectly inelastic, so 400. And for this one, the same as the first one, it's going to go through the q-intercept at 100. Okay, but normally it's going to be minus because no one's normally going to provide something at a price less than at a price of 0. Okay, so very quickly then, work these out and work out the quantity supplied and quantity demanded based on the last slide that we just did. Okay, hopefully you've worked that out okay, and we come up to this next one, which is the last thing you need to know, and that's how to work out excess supply and demand. So for the last question on here, if you did it correctly, you should have worked out that the equilibrium price was 6 and the equilibrium quantity demanded, quantity supplied was 440. Okay, so then moving on to this next slide, we've got the equilibrium quantity 440, we've got that being 6. It says a new price of 4, so we know there's going to be excess demand, so we need to work out what the supply and what the demand is going to be, and we just do that by working out for 4, and we find out that quantity demanded is going to be 620 and quantity supplied is going to be 360. Okay, and then we just work out the difference, so 620 minus 360, so there's 260 units excess demand. So that's the last thing that you need to know on here. Here's some practice questions, have a go at those, pause it now. Excellent, well done. Hopefully that was fairly straightforward, and you maybe did a little sketch like this, showing the original equilibrium and then the new supply and the new demand, okay, at that particular price, just like we did there. Now the final thing, last question before you need to maybe go and research some past exam papers, question is this, okay, how much will the equilibrium price and quantity change if people are now willing to buy 15,000 fewer chickens at each price as a result of lower beef prices? Okay, so this basically means that we need to change this figure 15,000 times down, so that will become 90. So you need to work it out, the original equilibrium and then the new equilibrium. Okay, and there's some tips on this next slide to help you do that. Hopefully that's okay and you understand that. Have a good time and ask me any questions if you need to.